Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. And this is where we like to gather together as writers, talk about all things writing for writers and by writers. So welcome. We're so glad to see so many of our friends here in the chat. And those of you that take the time to nourish your writer's soul and watch this as a replay, thank you for taking it. It's so important to keep learning and taking care of yourselves. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts here, and this is the first time in weeks we've got the trio together. We've got my other fellow co-hosts, Johnny Alexander and Bethany Jett. And we've asked Jan to stay on today because she helped coordinate with bringing our special guest today and then this topic. And we're all excited about this topic. So we're looking forward to talking about it today. So Jan, I'm going to send it over to you to do an introduction and talk about what we're talking about today.
Great. Thank you. It's so nice to see Ashley again. It's been a long time. I believe we met at the 2014 Florida Christian Reference, and we've been friends ever since. We've been in Word Weavers together. Ashley's an author, blogger, and teacher, but she prefers the title of Big Sister, a firm believer that we all know something worth sharing. She started the blog Big Sister Knows as a way to encourage other young women to live with gusto. Her upcoming releases are Modern Cast Iron, a Red Lightning book in 2020, and the children's series Big Answers, Little Lamb books in 2021. They're a continuation of that mission. Ashley lives in Tallahassee, Florida with her uber patient husband and one busy toddler. Find your encouragement and follow Ashley's journey at BigSisterKnows.com. We're so excited to have you here with us today. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up writing a cookbook. It's kind of a fun story.
Yeah, and thank you for introducing me, Jan. It's quite a treat because you're right, we've been writing buddies for quite a while, and I know everyone here. So as a side note, I kind of feel like a real author today because I'm on Writers Chat. It's like a badge. It's a badge of honor. So this is super cool. Yeah, so I'm a faith-based writer. Like most people here, and someone asked us, what do? We write about faith stuff. So I've been writing faith-based articles on Big Sister Knows since 2015, and the books that have been on my heart to write are faith-based as well. I actually went to a Bible college and got a master's degree so I could write a faith-based book that was on my heart, and that's Girls with Gusto, which I'm still trying to find a home for that. And then I have a children's series, which is supposed to start next year, 2021, with Little Lamb books. And the first book is called Who is God? And so that's for 4 to 6-year-olds. And it's just in a storyline, all these topics about faith that kids really need to understand, but as parents, we have a hard time breaking it down for them. So through a story of animals on a farm, just exploring those topics about God and forgiveness and love. So really excited for that to start, hopefully fall of 2021. COVID's put a damper on everything, as you all know, so we've pushed that back a bit. So in the middle of all this stuff, all this faith-based stuff, I just got this, well, I'll tell you the full deal. We were at a book expo in New York. I'd never been to New York, never been to a book expo. And I went with my mentor, Michelle Medlock Adams, who we all know and love. And we saw a publishing house there, and it happened that there was an acquisitions editor there. And we weren't there to pitch. You don't do that at expos, but it was just kind of a God thing that we were connecting. And Michelle's like, you should pitch them something, because we were just really enamored with the kind of books that they had. Well, I had never thought about the kinds of things that they write about, food and drink and sports and that kind of stuff. I never really thought about that sort of thing. But as she's talking, all of a sudden, I get this complete download from God about this is what you need to write. It's going to be a book on cast iron. It's going to be about the cookware, the nostalgia, the history of it. You're going to have recipes in it, and you're going to visit the Lodge manufacturing company in Tennessee and do a walkthrough. the entire book. Before she finished her sentence, I went, a book on cast iron. And it's going to have blah, 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 all these things in it. And she's like, oh, okay, go pitch that. You know, it was that surreal and that weird. And that's kind of how God works. So I knew that it wasn't me. I knew that this was something that was from God. And because it was from God, I knew that they would want it. I knew that it would sell. I knew that people would like it because it had nothing to do with me. And so I was able to step out on this with a confidence that I don't think I would have had otherwise. I'm not a chef. If you follow me on social media, you'll see I use #NotAChef. I have no culinary training. You know, I'm a home cook, like we're all home cooks, you know. But I had been researching cast iron for my own benefit for a while for health reasons. And so I actually knew quite a bit about it, even though that was not a topic I had ever thought of writing about. So God really pulled this together in a very obvious supernatural way for me. And they did love it, and we are publishing. It comes out next week. This is the 1 week mark, so August 18th. And it's awesome. So I have had an article included in an anthology before, but this is my first book, my debut book. And this is not what I had ever thought about publishing. This was not my heart book. It is not my heart projects, but it is something that I'm passionate about. And so I can talk about it and write about it with authenticity. And I think that translates pretty well too. So I'm just really excited to see what God's been doing with this. So that's the long end of how this came about. But I do think I'm excited to share with you some ideas about how people can maybe approach this kind of thing intentionally instead of by accident like I did.
That's a great story. I love it. I remember when you first started talking about it and asking for recipes all over the place and stuff.
Oh yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea what I was doing. So, and I don't know that I could ever do this again. It was just a total God thing. Yeah.
Yeah, when he wants you to do something, he finds a way to get you to where he wants you. And did you include some faith-based stuff within the cookbook as well?
So this is kind of getting to that. How do you keep your integrity? How do you write what you want to write and what you feel God has led you to write while exploring this seemingly secular project? And so this book is through Red Lightning Books, which is a part of Indiana University Press. So the University of Indiana has, you know, a publication department, as most universities do, but they have this trade publication arm, which is a bit unusual. And so they have these amazing books that they put out, and it's not very common. I don't know if there's any other university that really does it like this. But the woman who is my acquisitions editor now works at Kentucky. So I think this idea might start to spread, which is exciting because they do such a beautiful work. But it is through a university. So people who would pick this book up would not be looking for faith-based information. And so I didn't try to include that kind of stuff. What it does have is a very wholesome feel to it. It's very family-oriented. I talk about my family and stories in my family that, you know, gathering around the table. So that idea of coming together as a family around the table is just kind of central to the whole book. So I don't really have a lot of opportunity in this to talk about God. But what's cool is that when people want to learn more and they want more recipes and they want to contact me or just see what else I have out there, they're going to go to my website and they're going to see a whole lot of blogs about God and faith and making that practical in your life. So that's the part I'm really excited about because my blog traffic has really increased as I've started writing more and more about cast iron. And those people are seeing the faith stuff. And so it's enabling me to cast a broader net and to share with people who would never have found my website otherwise. So that's where that connection is.
So your faith-based can come out in a general market because you're pulling them back into your other stuff, which is
Right.
that's there's always a way to figure out how to nudge somebody a little bit. That's great. What are some drawbacks that you might have found writing in the general market?
So I'll tell you the advantages first, if you don't mind,
Sure.
because I think I'm going by my own ignorance when I started this, and just assuming that some other people might feel the same way or think the same way. I really didn't know what to expect in the secular market. I've never published before. I did try to get a book published many years ago with a company that went under, and that was a horrible experience. And so I just didn't really know what to expect. And for those of you who might be hesitant about that, let me just say this has been the absolute best experience ever. Every person I have worked with has not only been professional, but I believe most or all of them have actually been Christian as well. They have been excited about the content of the book. They've also been very pleased with the way I'm sharing it on my blog. They don't mind the faith stuff that I share at all. So, in fact, they assigned a publicist for this book, which is one of the big advantages of being with a larger publisher is they have money. And that's very helpful as an author because we don't. And so they put their resources into this instead of requiring you to. And I've been working with a publicist who's wonderful. She's out of New York, and I was actually afraid to talk with her because, well, I'm a faith-based writer, and this is what my blog is, and this is what it's called. I was just really afraid they would want me to change a bunch of stuff, and I was willing to do it, but I didn't know what I would need to do. And she said, "Oh, you are? That's fantastic." And I just remember pausing and saying, "I think so, but why do you think so?" And she said, "Well, I have all these markets that I can put you in to talk to that if you had cuss words or whatever in your book, they might not let you on. And so it opens the markets that I can send you to." I said, "I never, ever would have thought of it that way. I would have thought I would have been pigeonholed or put in a niche." She said, "No, not at all. It opens you up to everybody." So how cool is that? The world is actually okay with Christians. Like, it's kind of been a mind-blowing, experience here. So I said, "What about the website? Do I need to change?" No. "Okay, well, is it kind of weird? Like, I write about this." She goes, "Well, that's you. That's part of your personality, and it's authentic. And so when people talk to people, they don't talk about just one thing. You talk about multiple things. So your blog can talk about multiple things."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." That's about a year's worth of stress. I'm just freaking out. And I was concerned about things I didn't need to be concerned about. So I really wanted to encourage people who were thinking about this sort of thing, don't stress it. Like, just be authentic, and people will buy that because it's real. So in terms of disadvantages, like you asked, Jan, I would say the big thing is I didn't know I'd have to be talking about cast iron and posting pictures of cast iron for years and years. And so, it's funny because we laugh about it. My husband's like, "Can you please write fiction from now on?" Because, it was so crazy. I was actually a couple months pregnant when I signed with them. And so I did this whole project pregnant. And I turned it in New Year's Eve with a little baby on my lap. And so it was just the wildest ride of our lives. And I'm up at 3 a.m. starving. I'm like, well, I may as well make what I was going to take pictures of today. And I'm making Dutch babies, and Robbie's waking up to the smell of food. It wasn't that bad, but it was a trip, trying to get some kind of food photographer, trying to do, it's crazy. So we made it work, and it was fun, and it was a project of love and labor in more than one ways. And so that was the fun part. Johnny?
I have a question. What did you say you were up at 3 a.m. making?
A peach Dutch baby.
What is that?
Oh, I got a recipe for that. It's in the book and it's on my blog, and you need to make this tomorrow because it's like amazing. I didn't know what it was either, but it's a skillet baked pancake. It's a German pancake
Oh, wow.
instead of frying it. So it's thicker, and I
Uh,
make it with canned peaches, and it's absolutely delicious. And I've had people say they added blueberries, and I had someone else say they added pineapple, and they both said it was amazing. So experiment and enjoy. I make it gluten-free too with rice
oh,
flour.
wow.
So
Wow.
it's, yeah, recipe on my blog and in the book. So yeah, that one's worth sharing.
You also said something that got me curious. You had to take pictures of it. Did you have to do your own photography all the way through this book? Is that common, or is that?
That's another disadvantage of doing something with food or something that you need a lot of photography, and that is organizing a food photographer. And we had ideas for what I knew what I wanted, and I couldn't find someone to do it here. The publisher is Indiana and on the corner of Kentucky over there, and so they have a test kitchen. They have all that they've used before. Well, I couldn't just fly. I'm 5 months pregnant at that point. So, and then how do you take all the cast iron and get the food? Like, it was just logistically not feasible. So we figured out, or I kind of figured out what to do. Again, a God thing, I found a blogger in Jacksonville, and I just liked her blog. I liked that she was a Christian. She came out and said she was a Christian. I liked that she used natural light. She had some pictures of food on her website, but not many. And I reached out to her, and she's like, well, I've never done this, but I've always wanted to, but I'm nursing, and he won't take a bottle. So I can't travel to Tallahassee. We'll come to Jacksonville. so we were cooking and packing and driving the 3 hours to Jacksonville, and we hung out in her kitchen, in her dining room for 2 or 3 weekends in a row. And it was just the craziest, nuttiest thing we've ever done. And it was wonderful. And she did a beautiful, beautiful job, but we weren't able to get all of the blog is bigsisterknows.com. Someone just asked the question. So we weren't able to just take everything over there. So for a lot of the food that I would just make on a daily basis, I would set up my own little studio in the living room and take photos that way. So the photographer was helping me. I bought a new camera, had to get a new tripod. Like, I was also food photographer. My husband's holding up things, trying to get the light right. He's the assistant. I'm waddling around. It was just nuts. So it was fun. It was, like I said, the craziest, nuttiest thing we've ever done, and we loved it. And I hope that vibe just really carries into the book. There's some really fun pictures in there. There's one of me in a large hog boiler, like a really huge, like a big syrup kettle thing. I'm sitting in it. I think I'm 9 months pregnant, holding our chicken. Like, we just went for it. We just went all in with this book. Why not? We just had fun. And the publisher loved it. She's like, that's great. Why not? Just let's have fun with it. So yeah, I took a lot of the photos, but the photographer did all the bulk of them, and she did a beautiful job. And but the disadvantage is, now I'm into this promotion phase and have been for a few months, and it's like, okay, I need to share a lot about cast iron on my blog and on social media. And so it's more pictures, more everything. Well, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I have a toddler running around. So they want me to do more video, but I just can't do video without, from Gordon. So I have really struggled to get any video done. None of us are wearing makeup. Like, this is just for you today, guys. This didn't happen around the house. And so, I mean, we're just hanging on, and so, like, video, not so much, but I have been able to keep up with pictures and stuff because I am cooking in cast iron 2 times a day at least. We are experimenting with recipes. It is genuine. This is what we made today. Or, if it didn't turn out, I'm like, well, recipe fail, gonna try again. And so we're just doing the best we can. And I say we, because Robbie is always in the background helping in so many different ways. but we're just doing the best we can with it. But if you're going to write about something that isn't part of your daily life or isn't something you're really passionate about, you're not going to enjoy sharing that for a couple years to promote that book.
Yeah.
So make sure it's something you
That's
love.
That's a lot of wisdom there, I would say. This
Yeah.
is so Pinterest and Instagram
Mhm.
worthy.
Mhm.
Are you on those platforms with these pictures? I would think would be phenomenal outreach there.
Yes, so I'm Instagram heavy, and I share to Facebook. And for the children's series, the platform that they've asked me to really promote there is Pinterest. So I'm going to have to kind of do a little bit of a switch over the next year into that. But right now it's very much Instagram and Facebook. And I'll tell you, we have an old house. Our lighting is not good. There wasn't lighting when they built the house in 39. So like we have all these beautiful windows, but not like it's all shaded and everything. It was meant for the house to be cool in the summer. I don't have great lighting. I don't have granite countertops. You know, it's an older, it's neat, but it's an older house. So it's been difficult to get the lighting right. You know, I'm trying to take pictures before I serve the food. It's like, Gordon's starving. Robbie just got home. Okay, get the picture. Just get a picture on the phone. You know, post it later. You know, like forget food setting and all this stuff. Like, no, that's someone else's blog. Mine's just total real life. I snapped this picture while a child was hanging onto my legs, and this is what it looks like, you know. So it's funny, but I think some people are kind of appreciating that, because I think that's most of our lives. We don't have time to sit down and pick the parsley off the plant, and I'm gonna put it here. Oh, let me put a flower on it, and turn my lights on, and like I would like to spend a day in those people's homes, but it's not my house. So we were just as genuine as we can be, because that's the only way I can keep this up, because
I think that
it's
makes
going to be
it
something to promote for a while.
I think that makes it more relatable, Ashley, because like cast iron feels a little overwhelming to use. Like how do because remember when you were telling me about like the different oils and butter and the melting points and things, like you use them for different things. Like I can't wait for this cookbook. But so I think the fact that you can then balance a little bit of that learning curve that comes with the cast iron, since a lot of us didn't grow up with it, with the fact that you're telling the story about how the baby's on your hip and stuff, I think that's going to make you even more endearing to people and really kind of grow that following. More like, okay, I can cook in cast iron too. The cleanup, everything about cast iron feels overwhelming, right? Like, so I think that's a really good balance.
Thank you. Yeah, it's intimidating. I think is the word. We're all just intimidated by it. You know, just like, you know, grandma making biscuits. Like, oh, I don't think I can do that. It's something grandma does, you know.
Right.
So the intent of this is to make it relatable. So I appreciate what you're saying. But I think someone starting out, the advice would be do what you can do and do it the best way you can do it. And don't try to be someone else or do it a different way. And if the publisher isn't on board with that, it might not be the best publisher for you, because it's not just selling it for a week. Like, you are in it for a good couple years, really trying to promote that book ahead of time, promote it after it comes out. Like, it's got to be something that you can do for a longer haul.
Yeah. Ashley,
That's good
somebody
advice.
asked earlier about the recipes and copyright issues. I think it was Rhonda said she had some of her dad's recipes she would like to publish. Do you have any insight on how we can publish recipes without worrying about copyright?
Yes, and that was one of my biggest questions starting out. Like, okay, so I have to make these up, or how did you know, maybe I shouldn't have opened my mouth back at the book expo, and should have just let this die. No, recipes cannot really be copyrighted.
Okay.
Yeah, surprise. So we all got to eat, so you can't just copyright something and then no one can use it or share it. So the advice was make it your own. So like the Dutch baby I found on Pinterest, but I made it a little bit different. I like canned peaches in mine because they're sweeter, and you can store canned peaches easier than fresh peaches, and you can make it all year round. So I just say make it with canned peaches, and this is how to do that. And so if you tweak it a little bit to make it yours, then you can share that recipe and publish that. Yeah, Bethany?
I think another with that same question, the answers that I got too for that was, like in the description when you're giving like the steps and things, like you can kind of modify in that area, so you're not doing verbatim. Put in the oven, stir. I mean, some of that stuff's going to be normal, but you can add a little bit of like your own verbiage, and that can help like mix it up a little bit.
Right. Because if you like in my book, I always have the title and then a little bit of a description about what is this recipe, or where did it come from, or why do I make it, or how did I modify it for cast iron? Because a lot of these are basic recipes that you might make now, but you don't make it in cast iron. It's not traditionally made in, like shrimp Alfredo. You probably never made that in cast iron. So how would you make that in cast iron? So I have a little description and then the ingredients and then the steps. So even just changing a bit of that makes it my own. So I try to be really genuine about that. This is where I found it, or, we started making this years ago and I do this instead of this, that sort of thing. But no, it's not thievery. It's just, you just can't really copyright a recipe.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Did they assign you a certain number or like categories to put together, or was it all I'm going to come up with 100 of them, all desserts or something?
It was just kind of all me. It was like, well, I've got this. What do you think? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And like I said, the folks I worked with over there were phenomenal. So I was always asking questions and they were always giving answers. And so like, yeah, we like that. We like that. And I said, well, I've got recipes from appetizers to desserts and breakfast. And like, great. And so I just felt it made sense to divide it up. So it's about an even mix between all the different kinds of things. So, and then there's some things where it's not like an actual recipe, like brownies. Who makes brownies from scratch? I mean, seriously, does anybody? Okay, Jan, put your hand down. I don't believe you would do. So nobody makes brownies from scratch except for Jan. So like most of us just use a mix of some kind because we just don't have time, and the effort to put into it would just be, so much more than what we have available. So most of us use mix for some things. And so like you can put that in a cast iron and bake that, and you're going to get a better result than if you put it in a glass pan or a metal pan, because of the way cast iron cooks. And so just kind of advice on that. I even refer to this as a guidebook instead of a cookbook, because it's not chef made. It doesn't have, I don't even list the servings. I don't know what the servings are. And don't ask me about the health benefits. I don't know. No, I don't count calories. I'm not going to pretend I count calories. Not going to happen. So you can do your own search if you're interested in that. But it's how to put things together, and then how would you translate that for your dietary needs. So, giving you a little bit of help on that. So like me, I'm gluten-free. So all of these recipes I've made gluten-free. But you can make them regular, or you could try to go vegan or dairy-free. So it's just kind of, how would you translate some of that so you could make it the way you need to make it? So that differentiates this book from other so-called cookbooks, because this really is a guidebook and not a cookbook. And they liked that. So that's another way, if you want to talk about ways that people can enter that secular market. If someone had said, hey, would you do a cookbook? I'd have been like,
Right.
not a chef, don't have that experience. But I do have knowledge about cast iron. And so I approached it from that standpoint. And now I have this beautiful book. So I think that can be said for a lot of different types of publication. You might like to go birding. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of books on birds out there from experts, and you may not be an expert, but you might be able to approach it from a different aspect. So, for example, let's say you typically write about depression, coming out of depression. That's your blog. So your birding is how you get out into the world and you decompress and you talk to God. And so it's a means to an end for you. And it's this wonderful experience that you have. Well, you can write a whole book about that, and you can pull those two concepts together on your blog and on your social media, and all of a sudden you've got this really fun, neat thing that you're adding to your blog, that your blog readers appreciate. And now you've got this book from a perspective that no one else has written about. So
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were telling your story. In some ways, this is a wonderful platform building aspect.
yes,
We've talked about content buckets on the writers chat for a long time, but to add this, you're drawing a whole new readership into your to the your heart project,
right.
your faith stuff. And I think it's a wonderful move, and it's something you know and you enjoy, you love, and it definitely was God given, this whole story. But it's beautiful platform story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree, and that's what I meant to say. And you said it succinctly. That's exactly what it does. And I've been asking from the beginning, like, God, this is the book you want to publish first? Like, haven't we been working on that other one for a really long time? And don't we have big plans for that? And, I mean, it's been a joke. I mean, he has such a great sense of humor, and everyone around was like, "You're writing a book about what?" And it's about cast iron. Like, my family just got theirs in yesterday, because even though it's published next week, the distribution centers released it early. Praise God, because now reviews will come out earlier, which is super cool. So they have their own copy. This is what it looks like, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Cool.
Very nice.
So they got it, and even my own family, who's been hearing about this for about 2 years, was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to have all that stuff in there. Oh, that's really cool." Yep, that's what I've been telling you. Yep. So
Did the man from the cast iron company put anything in the book?
yeah, I've got a forward from the previous PR person for Lodge Manufacturing. I did get my tour of Lodge, by the way, which was super cool. And I've got endorsements from all the people I really wanted to endorse it. The Cowboy Cook endorsed it, and Joshua Becker from More with Less, who is a minimalist, endorsed it. So, like, I
Wow.
was like, "Oh, that's exciting." So it's totally doable. I mean, basically, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's about finding that niche that fits you, and then finding the right publisher for it. Now, the good thing is, in today's environment, those bigger publishers, I believe, are not as badly hit as the smaller ones are. They have a little more wiggle room. They have money set aside for things. And so, the biggest hit I had with this book was it getting delayed. They decided to push it back so it didn't get lost in April, because that was the original pub date. And so we pushed it to August, and I agreed. I thought that was a good move. And I think God's going to use this time, and he's going to use this book even more than he would have otherwise. So we're standing on faith with that. But it's not easy breezy. Nothing's easy breezy in the writing world, but there are bigger publishers that are secular, and there's a lot of other types of content that's out there. And so I think the opportunities, if you open your eyes to what really interests you and what you like to write about, I think you'll find that there's something there that you can write about. Like, Jan, I know you're looking at different types of craft books and things, and I just thought that was really cool. Craft books about cats, books about, like I said, books about birding. I mean, the opportunities are endless as far as what interests you, but you've got to find a good fit with the right publisher.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated. I know you haven't been able to catch everything in the chat. You have stimulated all sorts of creativity ideas over there.
Lots of things going on in the chat.
Whoa, we're into meat and ale and fantasy cookbooks and dragon toes or something. I didn't catch all.
Whatever.
But the creativity that this brings, and cooking is creative. So think how that does interweave with one or the other and stuff. And they're saying dragon toes is better. So anyway, I just think it's a phenomenal idea. And you talk about platform again, and when you look at the list of top topics on Instagram or the top blog topics, food Cooking is
yeah.
always probably 1, 2, or 3. It's up there. It's not just in the top 10. It's way up there. And unfortunately, faith, it usually doesn't make the top 10. It might hit lifestyles, or something.
Yeah.
But I just keep thinking this is just a great intermix that's going to give you a platform with Girls with Gusto, where I know your heart is, as a big sister and stuff. Yeah.
I love
I
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I love your cover. Can you show us that again? I actually got on your blog on my other little laptop so I could see it. That is just
It's
beautiful.
fajitas.
matching. Yeah.
Because all the books about cast iron cooking have a big fat chicken sitting in a skillet. I mean, most of us don't cook a whole chicken in a skillet.
No.
Like, and I wrote this also, with millennials in mind and with younger people in mind and the college girl in mind. And I didn't want to cook a whole chicken in a skillet, when I was 18, 19, 20. I was going to eat it anyway. So, I wanted it to be something that was relatable and took that fear away. And we had a lot of really great comments about the photography, which I'm just so excited about because it was such a pain point when we were going through it. Like, how are we going to make this work? But the photographer took that beautiful picture of the fajitas and she nailed it, I think.
Yeah,
and the desserts were really fun and easy to photograph as well. Sloppy Joe is not as easy to photograph. Big pot of peas isn't always easy to photograph. So it was very interesting. But yeah, you're right about the creativity. Like we're writers, we're creators, we're creatives, and that doesn't just stay within the realm of faith stuff. And another point, to talk about it from like a spiritual standpoint, I feel like we get this in our mind that there's this Christian stuff and then there's this secular stuff, and everything Christian's good and everything secular is bad by default. And I just keep getting reminded that if you look through the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, you see that God makes very mundane things holy with his presence and with his blessing. And so I just really felt that God came up with this idea. He was going to nourish it. He was going to birth it. He was going to do whatever he wanted to do, and it wasn't my doing. And so it was going to be successful. I was just going to try to get out of the way. But I feel like if we can appreciate that God can make our books about birding and cats and crafts for his glory, then we can appreciate how he can move in that secular market and maybe stop that dividing line about Christian versus because really a thing can't be a Christian. Only people can be Christians.
That's right.
Bethany, you had your hand up.
Yes. Were you working on this proposal at Right to Publish?
Oh, girl, I was. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say that. Okay, so I'm going to say this about you because you're not going to say it about yourself. But I remember you writing. I just wanted to confirm it was this book that obviously give God the glory, but so much credit goes to you and how hard you were working, because that conference, Michelle, Ashley, Kyle, Vicky, like we're all there in this one main area of the dorm room. And Ashley, I see her like at least twice come in, ask Kyle a question and go back, and he's like, what is she doing? And he's like, she's getting that proposal done. Like they think that he was like every spare second working on that proposal at the conference. I just remember like I was so impressed with you, and I was like, she's doing it. Like she's doing what she was told to do. And like I loved that. So I know how much hard work you put into this book. So kudos to you on that too.
Well, thank you, Bethany. And y'all may not know, Bethany's been a mentor of mine before Michelle, even way back in 2015, and has helped me with my proposal for Girls with Gusto along the way. But yeah, I got to Write to Publish, and I went to Write to Publish to meet an editor who ended up not going. But it's okay, it worked out anyway, because I ended up getting that contract with Little Lamb anyway. So you just got to keep moving forward. Wow. But I went to Write to Publish, and I get there, and Kyle's like, yeah, so I'm going to need you to write that proposal. It's due next week. Wasn't it like next week? And I was like, oh! I mean, I'm pregnant for the first time. I just flown I've never been to Write to Publish. What is that, Chicago? Like, I've never been over there before. What? And he's like, yeah, I'm talking to the publisher in about a week. So if you can get that to me, that'd be great. You know, and he's so deadpan. I was like, you know, I'm at a conference, right? And he's like, we're face to face. I'm at a conference, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. For those
Okay,
did
we'll
it.
see you later.
for people
was
who
gonna
are
ask
watching who may not
Go
know,
ahead.
we should say that Kyle is Kyle Young, and he's a literary
Yes.
agent. He's Ashley's agent. He's Bethany's agent. I'm not sure. I think he's
Thank
agent
you.
of other people on here too. So
Yes, he's not some
Maybe they
random
can.
bully
Yeah.
writer. No, he's our agent, and he was wonderful. I never get to see these people, and I was so looking forward to visiting. But no, I ended up spending the majority of my time in my room, either working on the proposal or sleeping because I was so tired.
Yeah.
It was a conference to remember for sure.
Well,
But you do what you got to do.
I was going to ask that question for clarification because you said you talked about being at Book Expo and just kind of throwing this idea out to the publisher. And then you talked about having a book, and I kept thinking, I bet she had to do a proposal in between there.
Oh yeah,
And
all the
right,
steps.
this was probably just a few weeks after Book Expo, wasn't it? I mean, it went quick.
Mm-hmm. It
Okay.
did, and I don't have enough experience to say if that's more customary in certain markets or anything like that. I mean, I'm like you guys. I've been in the faith industry since 2015, and I know you pitch something and you sit back for a year and pray and hope you run into that person next year, and maybe they remember you. You know, like I'm that boat. So the fact that this worked, that they loved it, that they bought it immediately, that we were moving, like I said, it was a God thing, but I don't believe that that's unique for me. I think that that is something that God wants to do for all of us, that he has these ways that he wants us to get his word out. Like he's not standing in our way. So we just have to be open to the idea that it might take a circuitous route to get there, you know, and it might look different, and you know, we might be known as the cast iron person or the bird person for a while or whatever, and we just have to roll with that and take the route that he has for us, because it's certainly been a lot more fun, I think, than if it had been something else. I mean, I still want my other stuff out there. I feel like they're more obviously meaningful and more direct, but it's so funny. I've had so many women say, I have so much more confidence in the kitchen now. And I've got people texting me pictures and putting them on Instagram already, like, oh, I just got my book and I just made this, and oh, it's so good. And you know, they're not coming to Jesus, but they're coming to the table, you know, and they're talking with their spouse, and they're, you know, it's a step, right? So I'm excited.
You're reaching out to the younger women, and you're catching them with trying to cook and work with their family. And if they're coming to your website, you very well could be bringing them into a faith
Right.
life, or let them have the avenue to express their faith.
Right. Exactly. I can only let God do what he's going to do, and just try to do my little part. So I've got a lot of blogs out about cast iron now, but I'm still able to sprinkle in different topics of faith. I did an interview on the radio recently, and it hasn't aired yet, but it was with a friend of mine who's a counselor, a Christian counselor, and we were able to talk about gathering at the table and the importance for families in doing that. And it's for a Christian radio station, but I mean, that may be a topic they haven't explored lately. And because of COVID and all the social isolation, it's on people's heart more, but I think people still don't really know all the benefits of it and why they may want to do that. So it's kind of neat, the different areas this is going. But because it's like I said, more of a secular type of book, I've actually got quite a lineup coming up next week on different radio stations around the country. And some are 7 minutes long, one's an hour long. And these are, you know, national stations that I would never, I mean, they don't care about Girls with Gusto. So like I'm able to get on there, and who knows where that's going to go. I don't know, but it's exciting. It's fun.
That's what I think. This is just the first step of quite an adventure for you. I really think it is, because just how it fell together will lead to something else. And I just keep coming up with the phrase cast iron faith, to combine the two.
That's
I
good.
like that.
Yeah, you could.
I don't know. Platinum Faith is already copyrighted. That's a little close.
Yeah, nah, you can do something with cast iron
You can
faith.
do that. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned some key endorsements that you got. And that's always kind of an area people hesitate a little bit. How did you get some of those key endorsements? What was that like?
So a lot of the things that we have to do as writers ourselves, I did not have to do myself. The publisher did it. Like I was like, well, how are we going to do this? And what about this? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, we got it. We're doing it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, like I'm doing a little dance, like this is amazing. So another benefit of being with a larger publisher is that they'll do a lot of these things for you. But now we've spent countless hours on the phone, and I've done research, and I pulled together people who have influenced me in the direction the book took, and people that I felt like was a good connection. And I sent my list to them and said, this is who and this is why. And even worded some of the things so that they knew how to present that. And then they sent that information to those people and said, this is why we would like your endorsement. And they sent them an electronic copy of the book with the promise of a hard copy when that was available. And I mean, all the ones that I really wanted, I got. Like, I haven't heard from Paula Deen. We'll see what happens, Rue Drummond, still no response. But, once the book takes off, maybe they'll take a look at it and we'll see. So there's still some people I would like to reach out to, because I think it's still good to go ahead and get those endorsements even after the book is done and make that connection. And I've even got one in mind. But yeah, they did it, but I sent them the list. So I got the ones that I sent to them. Like, I don't think there's ever been a cookbook with a minimalist endorsing it before. And I was super excited that mine was the one that got it. But I take a minimalist stance with the book. I make sure that every recipe in here can be made with either a cast iron skillet or a Dutch oven. So you don't have to get the muffin pan or the bundt pan or the cake pan or this size skillet, that size skillet. In most cast iron cookbooks will specify different pieces that you have to have, and that gets very expensive. So I took a different route there. So yeah, it was really neat. In fact, we got so many endorsements, they had to add a page to the front of the book to put them on.
Awesome.
So I'm telling you, it's all God. Like, it's all God. But to Bethany's point, there was a lot of research put into that as well. And the people that I found that had really good information were the ones that I included as, hey, can we reach out to these folks?
You're a wonderful example also of how the work doesn't finish once the manuscript's in, about the amount of work even afterwards, like just now, and the continual, how it can, it's a wonderful story for us to learn from.
Well, I didn't want to just publish a book and it die. It's way too much effort. And to think about the effort I put into it, the amount of hours I spent here in this chair and not with my husband in the other room, not with my son. Like, it is a labor of love what we do. It is work. It's a career. And so I am determined, whatever power I can put into it to make it a successful book, that I will do that. And I think the publisher has caught on to that and appreciates that, because we have in very vague terms discussed doing another book. And that's another point of advice, if I can share some, is that if you work really well with your publisher and you're a nice person and you get your stuff in on time and you are a professional in every aspect and you write well and you kind of show a little bit about what you're doing, then they're going to be much more willing to work with you again, because they've put all this effort into this one book. And so they can leverage that and basically buy in bulk and get more books out of you with much less effort than bringing on another author. So
Right.
let them know they can buy in bulk from you and that there's more to you than this one thing. And I think more often than less, a publisher would want to have that opportunity. I can't really speak for fiction. I know fiction's a different world, and in the secular industry, I really can't speak to that. So you would need someone else for that. But in terms of nonfiction, especially, I mean, they need content. So I don't know that I ever want to do another book where we have to do all the photography and all this, but maybe, like I said, Robbie keeps saying, please write fiction, please write fiction. But I do know what I want to write for the next one.
I think Johnny would tell you that a lot of fiction writers do series. It's better when you come with a series idea.
Johnny, if you're going to do one, do the next one. Do 3, because people are already invested in your world and your characters. You may as well. But yeah, I do have another idea for them that I would have pitched earlier this year, but then COVID happened. So here we go again. But we'll see. But they do seem interested in utilizing me because they put all this money into this book. So I want to honor that. And I think that's the important part, is honoring the investment that people are making into your book. Yeah.
That's great.
It's probably time to ask people to come back on. So if you want to come on and talk to Ashley, or you have a question that we missed in the chat, there was so much going on in the chat. I'm not sure I was able to keep up with it all either. So yeah, everybody pop back on. Britt Mooney is going to be with us next week, and he's going to be talking about podcasts, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what we're doing. If someone, Britt's in here, if he wants to come on and give a quick.
If you can't get on, because there's a couple people we took off video, just always put in the chat that you can't get your video started, and we'll release you as from Writers Chat Jail, as we call it.
Writers Chat Jail.
Yeah, on that way. If you want to come back on video, because sometimes we take people off as they come in really quick. So I'll kind of watch that. And
Britt just said in the chat, writing groups and podcasting is the topic. So yes, looking forward to having, Britt's been on here before. He's a great guest, and we're really looking forward to having him back again to talk about writing groups and podcasting. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask Ashley while we got her here as we wrap up? Favorite recipe, maybe?
The one thing that I wanted to just say was I write down different quotes that people say, and you said a thing can't be Christian, but only people. And that really struck a chord with me, and I just wanted to tell you I appreciated that comment, and that was encouraging, because even my writing, that's been a recent thing for me, that my writing could be Christian and not a waste of time, which has kind of been comments that I've had from people in the past. So that was really exciting to me. I like that quote. That meant a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's sad that someone would say that writing anything is a waste of time. I think we could make the argument that that's never the case, because it's where are you leading them? Like in my case, I hope that they go to my website. I mean, that they see the crazy videos of me trying to restore a skillet with a drill or something, and we do have that video, and I'm willing to be silly and ridiculous if it helps the cause. So if they come to my website and they see other faith-based stuff, that's great. But I think if you think back about like your favorite books, a lot of them are not Christian per se. They're fun, they're lighthearted, they give you a moment in time where you can breathe. And I think right now, in the middle of all this stress and the heaviness that's going on in the world, we just need a moment to breathe. So I think we can imbue value into whatever we write, and we can lead people to Jesus in a number of different ways. But it doesn't have to be in every sentence, because people just don't like to be hit over the head anyway. So yeah, thank you, Jill. And I love your background on top of the world. That's fantastic.
Anyone else?
We've talked about this before, about sometimes we have a tendency to think just Christian Book Association, CBA, marketing, publicity, and all that. And that is a world of its own to get to know. But doggone it, we're not two separate worlds. You know, we are one, you know, and so I think we've got to remember that. This is just such a beautiful illustration of how you do something clean and still attracting people to your message.
Right. Well, and there's another example, taking it more so from the children's book standpoint, and that is that a lot of Christian publications are entering the secular market. And I'm sure Bethany can talk more about that, but because I get my information from you guys, I'm a serious writer, but they're entering, you know, this secular market in the sense that they'll write something that doesn't talk about God overtly, or maybe it'll have the word God, but it doesn't go into more detail. And so they can place that book on a secular shelf and get more eyes on it and make more sales than they would if they published something that was more overtly Christian. Now, part of me just wants to cry inside at that thought that, you know, secular stuff is selling and Christian stuff is not. I mean, people should be flocking to God and they're running away, but I can't fix that right now. But it does make me think that maybe it's okay that we have a book that is accessible on the secular shelf, that does bless kids in that example, and then lead them to Jesus in the other areas, in the supplemental materials on the website. And I really like that author. I like this book. Oh, let me look at this one. Oh, this one's more overt. And so I think sometimes we hem ourselves in, and it's not God trying to limit us, but we're limiting ourselves because we have this idea things have to be a certain way. And this has certainly been a lesson to me that it's going to be however God wants it to be, and has nothing to do with what I think is the best way. And that's very freeing.
Well, it's an amazing witness just how the whole thing came together.
Yeah.
I think on that. We got a minute left. Any last minute questions, comments from the group?
So I'm giving away some copies of the book and some cast iron skillets on my Instagram, and it'll be posted as soon as I can get myself together and post it. So if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's Ashley L. Jones author. I think there's a dot in there, Jones.author, something like that. And look for that. I'm sorry, it is only available to U.S. residents, Isabel. Now I feel bad about that. But I can't ship internationally.
That's shipping, yeah. Shipping costs are so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ashley, so very much. This has been such a creative, encouraging, inspiring conversation today. And congratulations, just congratulations on what a witness. What a witness on that. Thank you. And we so glad everybody, as those of you that know, that we have an after party as soon as we finish the recording, and we're going to have a shortened after party because a group of us have to meet again pretty quick. So we're going to take kind of a quick after party, but we'll touch base with everybody. So we invite you to stay on if you can for a few minutes. If not, we'll see you next week. And thank you for those of you watching the replay. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and being part of Writer's Chat. Thank you. See you guys all next week. Bye now.
Thank you.